Hey, everybody. Coming up on today's show, we got quite the array of subject matter going on here today. We're going to start out with a little recent firing over at the Google AI office. Miss Margaret Mitchell was let go.
One step closer to Skynet.
Oh, we're getting there, man. We are getting there. So what else we got, Keith? What's on the roll, pal?
Apple has some malware problems, and this is pretty serious. And it's a little bit of an I told you so. I'll explain why.
Yeah, and talking about, there you go. If you want to let Skynet in, there you go. Yeah, right. So we're going to also talk a little bit about, what is that? The Nissan Office Pod? I mean, someone stole my idea, I think. But apparently Nissan is listening to the needs of the many. Wanting to kind of, it's about time somebody came up with this. I think it's a fantastic idea. So we're going to talk a little bit about a portable office pod that Nissan has talked about recently at the Tokyo show. It's an alternative to staying, if you're self-employed, which a lot of us are. This is an alternative to get you out of the house and on the road maybe. So what else?
Trip to Stonehenge for old time's sake.
Been there. Ooh.
All right.
Agent Mulder and I forget who else.
Scully.
Scully. That's right. Oh yeah, Scully. She's hot. She
And,
was hot anyway.
And your Texas home, powered by a
Ford F-150. Man, Ford just got it going on, don't they?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Apparently. Literally and figuratively. So,
yeah.
All of that coming right up, everybody.
Welcome into the podcast, The Counter Show. I am your co-host, Jay, with my co-host, Keith, over there. How's it going, Keith?
Hey, hello, friends. Thank you so much for joining in. For those of you, by the way, that are joining for the first time, which apparently is happening more and more lately, as of late, thank you.
Yeah. Gosh. Yeah, we're on a roll.
Pleased to meet you. As you said, that's Jay over there. I'm Keith. And this is a show where we, on the podcast side anyway, talk about things just like you would maybe at a parts counter. So anything goes, pretty much, right?
Yeah. No, that's it, man.
Some days it's aliens, and some days it's axles and bearings and drive shafts, right?
And some days it's a combination of all of that. So just get ready. Keep your wigs and your keys away from everyone, and just get ready for the show. So, if you're driving along, just kind of enjoy this. If you enjoy our podcast, please remember that you can always go to partscounterguru.com and hit the podcast tab up there to locate every platform: Spotify, Google. Google. Maybe not Google, man. No. That's up to you guys. You choose whatever platform you want. But we're on Apple iTunes. We're on TuneIn and Stitcher and Amazon and all that good stuff. So just check it out. You can see some of these video segments over on our YouTube channel at youtube.com/PartsCounterGurus. While you're there, hit that subscribe button, ring that bell. And also give us a thumbs up, and please tell your friends. We'll get into some social media sites here a little later on, but right now we just kind of want to give you that opportunity to, if you're liking what you're hearing and you enjoy our show, which we enjoy our show, we hope that everybody else enjoys our show. And if you do, tell some people, man, and help us keep growing this thing. We're doing well. We're on a roll. Loving it. Oh, speaking of being on a roll, This was not part of our initial lead-in today on what we're going to be talking about, but I wanted to bring this up to you, Keith. It looks like Apex and SEMA are really, really making some bold moves in trying to get people to go ahead and get their reservations made, go ahead and get their booth spaces if you're an exhibitor done. So any of you people out there that are listening to this today, if you are a company that is exhibiting or wants to exhibit, you should probably go ahead and take advantage of that early enrollment now.
And Apex, that's the alien aftermarket pervasive equipment exchange.
That's it. Yes, that's it, man. Yeah.
Automotive Apex. Aftermarket. What is it?
Automotive aftermarket product exchange. Yeah.
Okay. And SEMA, of course, everybody knows SEMA.
And SEMA, yeah. Special equipment. Yep. Great show, and we really do hope that SEMA, if you're listening, and we hope you are, you guys over the SEMA Media Professionals, which are our peers in the industry, we hope to see you there. If you are listening. We hope it happens, man, and we're excited. I can't wait. I am looking forward to it. We're already looking at places to stay. So there you go. All right, so we just kind of spoke a little bit about the Google stuff early on. We podcasted 2 months ago or so on similar.
Yeah, so they had a previous firing, and this is becoming a theme with them, and I feel like the theme with us is, we repeatedly point to this on this program, is AI for the sake of AI is not. We've all seen this movie. We've seen these movies. Mm-hmm. We know how this ends, right?
That's right.
And for those of you that don't know what I'm talking about. There's a guy running around in a metallic body that's an AI, and he says he's
a shapeshifter.
Hasta la vista, baby.
Yeah.
This is not good. From the perspective of just letting things be in charge. I understand it's cool to have your smart home lights and all that, and I have some of that too, but there's something going on in Google. And I'm not trying to have a trial on the air here or convict anybody, and we don't know all sides of the story. But from the details that we do know, Jay, it feels like they're hiding something. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's what I was going to say, because when I went back and I looked at some of the information that was out there, that the story that broke about the second firing in this particular sector of what Google does. And trust me, there's a lot of good things that Google does do from a technological standpoint, and pairing up with other companies out there to grow technology. But you got to understand, man, when it comes to artificial intelligence and what you're doing with the data to get to that point, there's a fine line between growing technology and invasion of privacy.
Right.
And I feel that these two particular individuals have found that opening in the side of the boat, man, and they're saying, hey, this is not right. We need to do something about this.
So let's put some. Let me put some meat on the bone for what you just laid out there. Let me give you the backstory here for those of you that don't know what we're talking about. Okay, Google just recently fired Margaret Mitchell. She was the founder and co-head of Google's artificial intelligence ethics unit. Okay, so what does that mean? So basically, her job is to make sure that the things. Ooh, look at that! My phone just chirped up at me because I said the G word. Margaret's job was basically to make sure that things weren't being done in an unethical manner on the artificial intelligence side. Remember the old mantra that Google had, "Don't be evil," that they got rid of years ago?
They lived on that, man. That was it. Yeah.
So okay, well, people get fired all the time. Maybe it was her fault. Maybe it wasn't. We don't know all the details. But this isn't the first AI ethics employee that Google has nixed in the past 6 months. It's happened before. Both women that they have let go were campaigning for more diversity at Google, and they raised concerns about censorship happening within Google. Now, Dr. Mitchell says, hey, she's been locked out of her Google systems for 5 weeks. So this was brewing, and they were kind of positioning themselves, okay? She couldn't get into her email, couldn't get into her calendars. They shut her down. And they are citing... Let me see if I can give you the specifics.
So can I let me tell everybody, and while you're looking at that, just so you guys know how big of a deal this is. Margaret Mitchell was the founder and co-head of the AI intelligence ethics unit. I mean, that's bold, man. I mean, that's a big deal. And I don't know all the details behind it other than the fact that I know that she was on to something, and she decided to just send some emails or some.
So Google has this policy in place for this department. I'm not sure about it being for the whole company. It might be that anything you publish externally outside of the company, meaning not on Google's nickel, like if you or I were just out, like, I don't know, say making a podcast, right? That if we worked for Google, we would have to get their approval for anything that we published. Okay.
Right.
So you couldn't have a podcasting gig on the side, or you couldn't be an author or submit news articles to trade professional journals, whatever. Okay. So basically, from what I understand, this has happened where these employees released documents, published papers, made comments, those sorts of things outside the Google ecosystem, and Google ain't having it.
Right.
Oops, there's the G word again, firing up my phone, man.
Look at that. See, guys, Google's listening. Pay attention. So what I found interesting, and I'm gonna read this. Let's see. She co-authored a research paper, which she says was Dr. Gibru.
That was the first fire.
That was the first fire.
Yeah.
She co-authored a research paper, and she was asked to retract it. And the paper had pinpointed some flaws in the AI language. Now, following a meeting on the paper, she sent an email to an internal group called Brain Women and Allies criticizing the decision. She had emailed her management laying out some key conditions for removing her name. And if they were not met, she would work on a last date for her employment. And of course, she gets an email response back. It says, "We respect your decision to leave Google.
There's
and we're
the
accepting
door.
your resignation." Yeah, exactly. And that's how those companies work sometimes in that regard.
Which is fine, and it's their right to do that. The problem that I have with this is they are trying to keep something secret here, apparently.
They are, but I think that the company is the company. The way I read this, that these people that are in close contact or work closely with this department and these particular individuals, it caused a lot of fallout, and hundreds of their colleagues signed a letter in support of both of them. And in her response, in the response to that, the company's chief executive, Sundar Pichai, apologized for the way she left the firm. That's Gibru,
now,
Dr. Gibru.
I can bet you that the reason that there was like that 5-week lockout on this time around with Dr. Mitchell and all that was because they were trying to make sure they had buttoned up everything before they showed her the door.
So they learned a little lesson from the first one.
Well, did they though? They're just firing differently, you know? I mean,
right.
So, I understand trade secrets, right?
They learned how to fire differently. There you go.
Right. Yeah. I understand trade secrets are one thing, and you can't have employees leaking that out. But to my knowledge, and I might be wrong here, leave us a comment in the comment section if you know differently. But I don't think anybody was leaking trade information. I think these were opinions that had more to do with ethics that got them in hot water.
Right. This was a technology and the ethics within that technology that's supposed to be abided by, which, like you said earlier on, was the mantra of Google early on. and they are not abiding by their own rules.
No, that whole "don't be evil" thing anymore. That's so far out the window.
Right.
Yeah, it's
so.
Well,
what is this?
Let me back that up. Google has been busted. Not, there's been federal inquiries. There's been data that has been published out there of their abuse of customer privacy many times. Okay,
right.
So I'm not just at random making these statements. There's factual stuff out there that says this has happened before. It's become a pattern.
And don't you find too that because of the high-level technology that's out there now, that there's a lot more high-level infiltration of some of this stuff as well, getting in there. And you kind of wonder what of your personal data is at risk here with Google, and is that what these guys were concerned about?
Right.
And, so my question to you, Keith, and if we can lay this out to our audience, what do you feel is the biggest threat from something like this happening when we don't have so it's like our government. We have certain sectors of our government that keeps our politicians in check, that keeps our democracy, our republic in check. And that's why these things are in place. What you have here is a similar situation. However, Google is like saying, nah, get out of the way. We're just going to do this anyway.
Well, that's just the thing. So it's called the EULA, the End User License Agreement. And the problem that people have is and I'm guilty of this too, with Apple, with Amazon on their Alexa side, with Google on their side. As I look at my phone to make sure it's not waking up when I say that. You sign virtually an EULA agreement, basically that says if I'm by agreeing to use this product, you're waiving your rights to, or you're agreeing to, right?
Right.
And in many cases, nobody reads those. I mean, South Park famously made a joke back when Steve Jobs was at Apple that you gave your soul away. Right?
You do.
It's in the EULA.
Yeah.
But you're giving them the permission to listen to anything and everything you say, type, read, write, whatever comes through on that device in many cases, okay? So it's the trade-off. People have given up their freedom. I'm about to turn into Ben Franklin here. In exchange for, certain conveniences. And
right.
That's great. This thing, I can control it with my voice. I can get in my car and tell it where to drive me. All I have to do in exchange is give it access to everything I say.
To everything.
Right?
Yeah.
Well, what you maybe don't realize is, because you say, well, I don't care. I don't say anything that I don't want people hearing. Right, but that thing's always on. So if somebody calls you and asks you for personal information, you have a third party in the room.
That's right.
If I work in an industry like, let's say, healthcare, where patient privacy is important, you can't have one of those devices because I can't discuss patient information while Google's listening, right?
Exactly.
And so there is no regulatory body in the sense of it's you. You're giving them permission to have your information. You're agreeing to it.
Yeah, yeah. And if you don't think that these things are occurring, guys, and how important it is to understand how this stuff works, this AI technology works. We know that most of you guys, maybe not all of you, but a lot of you are on social media. You're on Facebook.
Yep.
You've got a computer in your house. You're going up and you're doing a research on Christmas gifts, or maybe you ran out of makeup or something, and so you're on the Clinique website.
I know where you're going with this. Yep.
So just pay attention to that. Just as a test to yourself.
How many
if you're
times
on the same network,
have I had
a
family conversation around an electronic device, and not an hour or two later, I'm on a laptop looking something up, and I see an ad pop for something my wife mentioned.
It's creepy. Not only that, your smart devices are listening to you. And I have recently had this happen where I was talking about a specific brand of product, and all of a sudden, and I had not searched, it showed up
Speedo.
as an ad. Yeah, as Speedos. Yeah, there you go. Man, you'll never catch me in a pair of those. Never, dude. I just don't have the legs for it. But after I searched, I noticed there was an ad for the same product that I had just been talking about. I had not searched on it. This was all through my smart device, which happens to be an iPhone 10, listening to what I was saying. Now, if you don't believe that that's not happening, then go find out why with one of the recent updates to iOS 14, why they have now intentionally said, Apple says, while you're using an app, there will be a light that lights up to let you know that is being used. So your camera's on, you're being listened to, something like that.
Apple and Facebook have been quite at odds lately, and a lot of it is over stuff like this. Now, Apple is probably, in terms of, privacy, they are the most respectful of their users' privacy. It doesn't mean they're good at it. It just means they're the least offensive. Okay.
Yeah, early on was one of the things that attracted me the most about Apple, and let's get into Apple. So let's talk about Apple a little bit here and what's going on with those guys. And frankly, I think our audience, who's been listening to us for a while, they know how we feel about Apple right now. We don't hate Apple. We're big users of Apple.
It's true of all the car manufacturers that we talk about, everything we talk about. A lot of times I'm hard on things, because I care for them. I expect the best. I want them to do their best. And no exception here with Apple. Apple has such potential. We've seen through their history that they're capable of great things. So, rewind back to, I don't know, maybe 8 or 9 months ago, Jay, when we talked about Apple started. There was a lot of press out about they're making their own processors in their computers. Now, they've been doing that on their mobile devices for a while, meaning on their iPads and their phones, okay?
Right.
But that takes less processing power than a computer, than a laptop or a desktop, okay?
Right, right.
It is a scaled down version, if you will, right? It's a lighter weight version. So Apple announced a while back, again, we did a podcast episode on it maybe 9 months ago. Hey, we're going our own way now. We're leaving Intel. We're going to make our own processors. And we said on this program, oh boy, there are so many reasons why this is risky. Now, I understand they had an issue with Intel and they have a certain quality standard and they were back and forth with Intel over meeting that standard and blah, blah, blah. Okay, fine. But when you take on manufacturing something that, like Intel, for example, or AMD, that's all they do, really. I mean, Intel does some other side stuff, but their core business has always been processing, CPUs, right? So Apple's like, yeah, we can do it, right? But there's so much that goes into that. It's like you're an engine manufacturer, okay? But you learn to make those engines. You're going to use that for multiple vehicle platforms because of the amount of R&D that goes into manufacturing that engine.
That's right.
Okay, similar thing on the CPU side. If you're going to make your own CPUs, you're now responsible for keeping up with every little change in minutia that happens, okay? Case in point, there has been new malware out. As of the time of this podcast, they estimate that they know of, it's affected 30,000 Macs. Apple historically has been somewhat immune because of how the OS is updated and patched and built to malware, but no more. It's always been susceptible. It's just never been as easy, I guess. This does affect the M1 chip, the new Apple manufactured processor. They're calling it Silver Sparrow. And if you want me just to go into a little bit of why this is a big deal.
Yeah, I do. And I mean, I know why it's a big deal. I'm gonna speculate my thoughts on it, and I'll let you take off on this. But when I look at this, I'm gonna just kind of give a narrow perspective here, okay? bottom line, just a few words. I think the timing of Apple doing what they're doing now with their own processors, the M1 chip, could not have been worse because of the vulnerability.
Oh, they're freaking out right now. You better believe they are scrambling to deal with this.
They should be freaking out because this was a new platform that they were rolling out, and they were going to do this in sequences, and they're still rolling it out to specific devices. I've seen a lot of tech guys on YouTube talking about how well certain aspects of it are. That remains to be seen. But now here you have something rearing its ugly head. Is something that on this level, Apple hasn't really had to deal with it with such a new technology, right? Yeah. With such a new product.
So now all of a sudden, these guys that are making processors, they're going to have to spin up extra resources to throw at solving this malware issue. Okay, so you may be asking, if you're watching or listening to this, well, what does this matter to me? What can it do? Okay, well, that's actually the problem. We don't know yet.
They don't know.
So here's what we do know. If your Mac is infected with this, okay, we used to call these zombies. Your machine was a zombie. It is taking control of your machine. So every hour, these infected computers phone home. They call back to a control server and ask for instructions, almost like a Manchurian candidate or like a sleeper spy. Okay, just once an hour, they're checking in to see if there's any instructions. Right. And for now, the response has been no.
Nope.
No
payloads detected. Yep.
But the problem is we don't know what that payload could be. Okay, so could it brick your computer? Sure. Could it, combine all these computers into a massive distributed denial of service attack to try to take down some intelligence agency? Sure. Or NASA or whatever, right? I mean, they could
just you and me,
some media outlet. They could target our website. They could target whatever. But you have a combined force of 30,000 computers from all over the planet, basically doing whatever they're told to do. Now, do you understand why this is dangerous?
Very dangerous. Also, too, to let everyone know that these guys that are developing this malware, this could just be a beta test for them. They're checking to see how Apple reacts to this.
It seems to be highly coordinated.
They do. Absolutely, it is, because it seems like
how
they're just
it's running and what these security firms are discovering about how it's running. This is not a 14-year-old in his mom's basement that put this together. Okay,
this is there is some intent here that we don't know what it is yet.
Could be a foreign government. Could be.
That's right.
It could be, at this point, could be anything. Okay, but they've found this in 153 countries to date. Most of the infections are concentrated in the U.S., the U.K., Canada, France, Germany. And it's using Amazon Web Services as part of its distribution, which is a global network of servers. And again, here we go back to this whole AI thing, right? If this can happen to an Apple computer, that Apple controls the complete R&D through the production. They're making the processors, they're making the laptops, they're making the keyboard keys, they're making the hard drives, they're making everything. Okay?
Right.
And you're going to tell me that if it can happen to them, it can't happen to some AI-driven device that you have in your home to where that can't be hacked? I mean, are you kidding?
Right. People, and here's the thing, man. We just talked about the Google AI researcher, being fired too, and then now we have this happening with Apple. We are in a very vulnerable time right now when it comes to these sorts of things, and this is quickly changing with the AI technology, and I think that's where this is going to stem from. What blows my mind is that the dedication that some of these countries have to hacking, like our Russias and our China, and
patience and time.
Let's just call it what it is.
Yep.
But we have our own our own homegrown hackers here in this country. We just recently saw it happen in it was a water treatment plant down in Florida that was hacked and poisoned, and luckily they caught it and were able to prevent anyone from being affected by it. But this is how vulnerable we are with things like this. Could this be something like a water treatment plant going down or a power grid going? We don't know, man. We don't know. It could be defense systems. Could be NASA systems where this we've got the space station up there. We don't know.
So, right now, in kind of a closing suggestion to try to be helpful with this, you might be asking, well, what can I do? Well, right now, keep in mind, 30,000 is just the number we've detected. So they expect that it's probably a lot higher in terms of the infected computers. We don't know where this came from. We don't. It's just like a real virus. We're still in the early stages of trying to figure all that out. I'm sure everybody can relate to that with COVID, right? So there isn't anything right now. There is not antivirus software out there that is capable of removing this. The Silver Sparrow itself is sharp enough, they think, to detect attempts at removal, and that's another problem. So here's the best thing that you can do for now, okay? And it's not great, but it's better than nothing. If you own a Mac, keep your eye on your security updates that happen in your system preferences pane, and run any security updates that Apple suggests to you from that looks like a little cogwheel. I'm not talking about application updates from the App Store, where you go update like Keynote or whatever. I'm talking about if there is a security update, and it'll say security update, run it. Okay? Not talking about an OS update, not talking about changing from maybe High Sierra to, whatever. I'm talking about security, anything with the word security in it, run that update.
Right on. You're absolutely correct, and I've been paying attention to that. And I'm going to say this because I am not as tech savvy as Keith is, folks. This is Keith's world. He lives in two worlds: fast cars and computers, which are both pretty cool. But me, I do not set my automatic. I don't have automatic updates set on any of my computers.
Nor do I.
I do not. I used to do that, but I do not do it anymore, and here's why. While the eulogy might be super long, or when these agreements that come out, and I'm just
the
joking
EULA. We can go with eulogy,
because it could be a death, man. Yeah. I'm just saying. That's why I threw that out there. But I tend now, when there's an update available, I go in and read about it. And it takes me 5-10 minutes to read through the topic of discussion. A lot of it just doesn't make sense to me. But I also try to authenticate where it's coming from, because you will find that there. And then also maybe put in a couple of extra things. Like I have on my machines that I use, specifically my Mac, my Apple product, I have a lot of authentication in place. A couple of two type authentications in place where I have to, type in a code, whatever. But just little things like that can maybe buy you a little bit of time before you just happily click on something and go, oh, okay, boom.
So
give yourself take a deep breath for a second. Don't just go click.
Yep. In general, okay, I try to preach this to my 11-year-old. Read what's on your screen before you click anything.
Absolutely.
Read it like you need to understand it. Okay?
Yes.
It's there for a reason. If you don't have the time or you don't care, okay, but you're going to get what's coming to you. My philosophy on anything that I use production-wise, like work equipment, security updates are fine. I typically run those as soon as I can.
Right.
If it's a patch, or if there's a legitimate reason that I have to run an update. So in other words, in terms of the equipment that I use, the old the old saying, if it ain't broken, don't fix it, right?
Right.
If I've got my podcast recording rig set up the way I need it and everything works as it should and I have no compelling reason to make a change, don't make the change. Right. If there's a security issue that I need to patch, fine. If there's a bug in Final Cut or in some audio software that we're using, okay, I'll run that. I'll read through it. I'll make sure I understand that it's going to, patch up and maybe fix what's broken. But if things are working fine and there's not like an added feature that I need or whatever, I'm not in a hurry to apply that. So, just for now, everybody be careful.
Be very vigilant.
With what you shall click on, make sure you read. And stay away from, pop-up websites that tell you your flash is out of date. Everybody's flash is out of date, by the way, for those of you that don't know. And the reason for that is because flash has been discontinued. And you should not be using flash anymore on any of your stuff. And that's why your flash is out of date. Stop clicking those messages.
You'll see, you need to update your flash. Don't do it. Just exit out of it. Don't worry about it. I have that conversation.
Flash was used as a virus distribution platform quite a bit, and it got to the point where Adobe just said, no more. We're done with it.
Right.
All right.
And I'm pretty certain there's been some happy clicker going around on one of my devices here and I won't name any names, but that happened. So anyway.
Speaking of happy clickers.
Happy clickers.
If you were to be a happy clicker in an office of your choice somewhere. Now, I don't even remember. I think maybe... I don't know. Did I find this or do you find you took the bait? It. You took the bait and you were you were all over this. So yes.
Should I tell people where we're at or do we just let's talk about this. Well, what you want? Oh, that's a little Beastie Boys just in case anybody couldn't interpret that. Anyway, so we've all been faced with not all of us, but a lot of us have been faced with the challenge of working from home during COVID. Some of you are already working remotely, like myself, like Keith, who we've been. I would say that Keith and I are well-seasoned remote workers. We know how to get it done. It has its challenges on a number of levels. It can affect the psyche if you're not getting up and taking breaks and going outside.
I got a message that my flash is out of date. Should I click that?
That would be a no.
I hate to say I told you so.
All right. Anyway.
Right. So Keith and I actually did a couple of podcast segments on how to work remotely, working from home, and that sort of stuff, and how to deal with it. And this is really cool. Now, granted, this is a concept, but great ideas are born from those concepts. And 9 times out of 10, you're going to see some version of this out there at some point. But Nissan, and again, we're talking about Nissan again.
Hey,
Nissan's been in the movement.
Do you consider them an Asian company?
Yeah, I do. They are.
I mean, that's their roots, right? I mean,
yeah, absolutely. I mean, it was Datsun, Nissan,
I still consider them an Asian.
I think so. Even though they're rooted in the state of Tennessee now with their North American headquarters.
Yeah, right. But so here's why I ask that, because what we typically see in trying times from the Asian auto manufacturers like Honda, like Toyota, to give you a couple of examples, and I saw this heavily on the Honda motorcycle side during the 2008 recession. Acura was another one.
Yeah.
They tend to shut down R&D. They pull way back and tighten the belt on their R&D budget. And Nissan they're in trouble. They've had some trying times lately, okay? It's no secret, okay?
Right.
A lot of times what happens when an auto manufacturer gets in trouble is they shelter and they stop R&D or they severely cut the budget. It is very nice to see them backed into a corner here and just doing what they can to see, let's keep trying. Let's push innovation forward, right?
Let's do something. And, we talked about it. We had a podcast on it. We did a little video segment over on youtube.com/Parts Counter Gurus. If you're interested in going there, just subscribe while you're there if you don't mind. But, they started out the flurry of activity with the Nissan Proto Z, and then now we just recently talked about the Pathfinder. That's going to be out. What was it we just podcasted? It was another vehicle that.
The Frontier.
The Frontier, the redesigned Frontier,
and then the
Pathfinder,
Z. And that actually is out now. If you are unfamiliar with how to get to our full podcast, go to our website at partscounterguru.com or partscountergurus with an S.com. Both take you to the same place. We own them both. And then click on the podcast links at the top, and it'll take you to whatever you use, wherever fine podcasts are given away for free, whatever your platform of choice, you will find us there.
Absolutely. And we've been saying, Nissan, where are you at? And what are you doing? And so they rolled out this Nissan Next. This was their mantra. New mantra is Nissan Next. So we are seeing signs of that. There's some innovation coming out of. They're backing it up.
I can bet you, Jay, I'm going to give you a second here to be prepared to talk about some of the specifics in this thing, okay?
Yeah.
So get your list ready.
Oh, I'm ready.
But I would bet you that even though this van as it is right now and their concept doesn't maybe make it to production, there will be elements of this that they will leverage for future vehicles, because there are some really cool components and aspects in it that I can see being very usable in some of their vehicle lineup. Not to mention the fact that everybody and their brother's out buying an RV or a camper right now. So
yeah, and when I saw this story, and that's what really grabbed me, was that they're looking at two sectors of our life, which are affected, and or there's a result from it. So. If you haven't seen the story, what we're talking about is Nissan. If I don't know if you've seen the NV350 vans. They're pretty cool. They're basically fleet style vans.
This doesn't look like that though. This looks more like a VW. It's camper van.
It's more rounded and aerodynamic looking. Whereas the NV350, if you're out on the highway today, it looks like just one big huge box with wheels, like an Amazon van or something,
Right.
Which, matter of fact, I think Amazon may use a few of those. But they've come up with this concept. It's what they call a office pod, and basically, when you check it out, you'll see some of the things that they put into this is pretty cool, but it can bleed over into the RV world as well. So and that's where what you said, Keith, initially, which is they're playing around with this, but there's a lot of things that can come out of this from the technologies that they're putting in here. So basically, it's a mobile office is all it is. It's an office pod. It's very ergonomic. It has a lot of interesting technological features in it.
It can slide out the whole office unit itself. Can slide out the back of the van.
For open air.
You can climb onto the roof and work up there. Yeah. Yep. I saw, did you see the whole UV sanitization?
I did, man. And again, so there's your COVID, they're throwing a few COVID ties to this. Yep. And, they're focusing on that fact that a lot of people are working from home now, but that need as a human to get out and, and breathe fresh air or get some sunshine. When we work in an office building, or if we work in an office or whatever, at least we have that at least once or twice a day where we actually get in a vehicle and we get to drive and see things. End of the day, beginning of the day, listen to, the Parts Counter Guru podcast or whatever, on your way in or way home, whatever. But what this does for an individual or individuals is it gives you a little bit of mobility.
Yeah.
To be able to get out and kind of make your own space.
And think about, there are people that need to conduct in-person sales on site, whether it's a, t-shirt merch, like I need to see a t-shirt cannon added to this thing. Whatever, right? Like you have an office space to work from. If you need to conduct in-person business, that's an option. But like it's got a coffee maker, it's got some electric shades in it. I'm bet you could probably work out something to sleep in it if you needed to.
Oh, absolutely. And I see that working into, maybe some of the other vehicles down the road that, for privacy, say the back end of a Pathfinder or something. Say you're going to spend the night in your Pathfinder. Again, because more and more people are becoming nomadic. Man, they're
there
getting
are
out of the
going
house.
to be elements of this concept that was premiered in Tokyo that will make it to their production vehicles. I guarantee it.
And it does. It says it has everything you need. So let me just. So it's got, like we said, the rear hatch pops up and it has a slide out feature. Okay, and when it slides out, and we'll probably there's a video that
just go to partscounterguru.com, click on the mentioned on the podcast tab, and we'll put a link to this episode.
Yeah, it's pretty neat pretty neat. But it's got a workstation, computer. You've got inverters in it. Now, here's what's cool, right? So, could this whole Starlink thing be the timing of this and Starlink?
Yeah, so, it depends on how you want to get your internet. Cellular delivery is the popular way today, meaning like you're using the data plan on your, cell service or whatever. But if you have, Jay's talking about Starlink, is Elon Musk's satellite internet, or as I like to call it, internet from space. Which potentially you could integrate with something like this, and just like satellite radio, works anywhere as long as you have a clear view of the sky.
Anywhere you're at, you can use this stuff. So this makes it so much easier. I mean, if you've got this type of vehicle for that, look, if I'm still working from home and this thing actually comes on the market, and I actually need to work from home still, I'm hoping that. Maybe I'm just flying around the country going to shows, and we're just doing shows.
This is an interesting component of the world we live in today, meaning, post-COVID or in the midst of COVID, I guess.
Right.
Let's say you're interviewing for a job and, the requirement is work from home.
Right.
Well, how many people, and I know this is happening a lot. Look at the RV sales in the past 12 months.
Skyrocketing.
Where they are, finger quotes here, working from home, right? But where is home, right? And does that employer, you have to think about it like this, like, can they require you to be in a certain city? Or does that need to be discussed in the job interview? Or can you just get a product like this and go drive it out wherever you want? And, next week you're in Florida, and the week after that you're in, New Mexico. I mean, is it...
You remember what I said? The last absolutely was the last podcast that we did and that we put out. And I kept saying about, you feel the electricity like in the air, and it was kind of a play on words, but you're seeing all this EV activity, this change in technology, but you're seeing other industries that are related to the automotive world that are going, oh, wait a minute. Like, for example, Airstream with their EV Assist that they're committed to now. Now you have Nissan with this pod, this office pod that carries you out on the road. I am seeing more and more ads on TV or on, pop up in my browser when I'm researching stuff about RVs, and they're coming right out and saying, "Hey, working from home, why stay in your hometown? Go to such and such park and camp out here with us with all the amenities of working from home." Hotels are changing. I mean, they already had the opportunity for computers and hookups and stuff like that, but they're refining those. I've read something of late how they're trying to really focus on that connectivity, whereas years past you go to a hotel, the connectivity is horrible, or if you go to an RV resort,
you can't count right. Yeah, we talked about that in our so before we move away from this topic, I want to add a couple things here for those of you that are hanging with us. Jay doesn't even know this. Well, he knows one of them. So we attempted a few weeks back on the show I tried to sign up for Starlink, and their website crashed, and I eventually was able to get my pre-order in, so I have that. Now it could take 6 months to 18 months before before delivery. But when I get it, we're gonna play around with that, and I'm gonna see what kind of a fit it is for an RV lifestyle. So stay. Subscribe. If you're not subscribed, the best way that you would know is ring the bell, hit the subscribe button, and you'll be notified when that comes out. And also, in the interim, that's a big fancy word. It means in between now and then. Jay.
Yeah, I know, man.
I have, and I've actually had this since Christmas, but the weather hasn't been conducive. I have it's the brand is King, if that matters, but it's made for RVs. It's a cell phone cellular amplifier system made for your RV. You can ladder mount it, you can roof mount it, but it's designed basically to help me work from my RV with an internet connection over the cellular network. And I'm going to go through and do a video on what it is, how I'm going to install it. We're going to review it. I'm going to take a look at how well it works. And I will have all of that in place before our summer trip.
Right, which we're excited about, and you guys should be too. And you need to stay hooked up with us, because we got our 100th episode coming along soon, and we're stay tuned to that.
Hit the button, hit subscribe. If you're an RVer or you're thinking about it, I think this is going to be a good option. I'm pretty excited about it. Might have to drill a hole or two in the roof. Not excited about that, but we'll figure it out. You need to watch us show you how to do it, and just stay tuned for that.
We'll give you some word on it. So on closing note on this, and if you don't think that there's other intentions with this vehicle for Nissan, the concept is equipped with all-terrain tires and off-road capabilities.
That just
says
to me, so, RV. Yes, this is not a pavement parking lot work.
Right.
No. This is.
So there you have it. So good for Nissan, man. Something that's innovation, man. Right?
I agree.
That's innovation.
Yeah.
That's innovation. Yeah. So real quick, guys. Again, if you want to get into some of these video segments, you can check us out over on youtube.com/Parts Counter Guru. While you're there, please hit that subscribe button. Give us a like, thumbs up. That means a lot to us. And then ring that bell so you're notified when we release another episode. Right now, our schedule is we're probably releasing a video like every other day. At least 5 a week is what we're getting out there for you guys. Podcast is weekly, so you can catch that over on partscounterguru.com. Hit the podcast link. Spotify, whatever, all that. It's, you guys know the routine. Social media, guys. We do a little bit on social media. We're at facebook.com/Parts Counter Gurus. Like us, share us, tell a friend. Check us out over on Instagram.com /The Parts Counter Gurus. Now we're on Twitter. Our Twitter handle is @TheCounterShow, which is what you are listening to right now. And look, we can't do this on our own. We need your help. First and foremost, we need your subscriptions. The hands down, subscriptions are what we need, a lot of. But you can also help us out by going to our website, partscounterguru.com, and you'll see a Amazon link up in the upper right-hand corner. If you feel like you need to buy something, I don't care if it is a vat of grease, man, and you need that stuff for whatever you're doing. Let's say you're going to have a wrestling match or something in your backyard. I don't know what you do with a vat of grease, but if you need it, you can buy it through that Amazon link from Amazon through our website, and we get a little love from that. Now, we don't know what you're buying, so, hey, if you want to buy that grease and have a wrestling match in your backyard with grease, we'll never know. Unless, of course, you send us something, via email or contact us on our contact page there on partscounterguru.com. You can do that as well. Speaking of that, you can ask us a question, make suggestions, whatever you want to do. Just talk to us. We want to hear from you. Once again, thank you if you are already subscribed. We really appreciate it. Please get the word out. Boom. There you go. How about that?
All right. So I got our weekly paranormal here we go segment. Here we go. So
I'm ready, man.
There's been the first time I read it and I was like, all right, I'm not gonna bite, but it has crossed the news wire so many times in the past few days that I just can't look away anymore. Stonehenge yes. Apparently started out somewhere other than where we know it to be today, and there is oh boy, big word coming up. Buckle in, everybody. Archaeological evidence of the fact. Okay.
Yeah.
So, man, where to start with this? So I think
I don't know.
Here's where I want to start. Okay. They knew for a while here that the stones came from a quarry. They've identified where that is. Okay. They call them blue stones, and and they are now going with the theory that this was initially a burial site.
Right. That's right.
And was later moved.
Mm-hmm.
So the distance that they moved it, what did we? Do you
about
have
140? That? Yeah, about 140 miles is what they were saying. It was in the southwest of Wales.
Yeah.
And gosh, man, just amazing. These stones are 2 to 4 ton slab stones.
Crazy heavy, right?
Heavy.
And this is a 4,000 to 5,000 year old, best we can tell. And they think it had a religious significance. So the comparison that I read said, think of Washington D.C. from a kind of an importance in sort of cultural significance to the region.
Preseli Hills, by the way, is the Preseli Hills quarries.
Okay, there you go. And then add a dollop of religious persuasion to that, and you have Stonehenge.
And little magician stuff going on.
Okay, so this is the part that there has been, legend has it.
Right, that's what's cool about this, man. For
a very long time, that the famous magician Merlin stole these stones and had them moved. Okay, now until recently, everybody just sort of dismissed that as legend, but it does now appear to have some credence. Like, this could be, he could have been a part in this move. Why else could you explain moving these, multi-ton rocks, right?
Right. It's like it's like ants, right? Ants, their purpose, they move things that are a gabillion times their weight, and they move them all for one purpose, and we get that. But we have yet to crack the code on why a lot of these things are even in existence and why they were moved to where they were at. I mean, we're still scratching our heads on the pyramids, how they were built. Look, if you guys are into, UFOs and extraterrestrials, man, this is like a well of that sort of stuff going on, man. But
and it's fascinating to me that in its current location, the main entrance aligns with the longest day of the year of summer, right? And that 4,000 or 5,000 years ago, people were conscious of that they knew that the days got longer and shorter, and there was a longest day, and we're going to take these big heavy ass rocks and line the front door up with the longest day of the sun, and not to mention the fact that they were aware that the sun, that something was in motion, whether they thought it was the sun that was moving or they knew that our planet was moving, that sun did not come up over the same tree every day of the year, right?
Exactly. Yeah, and look, how they know it was moved, everything has an origin. That's like how they were that's like how they were able to determine, the Bay of Campeche, where the big huge asteroid hit.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Right? And the reason why that is because of all of these little, pockets of caverns around it. They finally did all the math on it, and they're like, oh, wait a minute, this is not just, water caverns. This is caused by an impact of a huge meteor or something. So same thing here, evidence is there. So they found that the rock, they compared it to this particular quarry, which is where this originally was. It was originally at the Wan Mon, and that's WAUNMAWN, and I'm sure some Welsh guy has listened to us going, dude, you don't even know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Well, that's
America.
Okay. America. I've been there. I love Tom Jones, so boom. I know a little Welsh.
So it was.
It's not unusual.
It was
it's
3
not
miles
unusual.
from the quarries.
Okay?
This place that you're talking about, just 3 miles, right?
That's right.
And they
it
found
was the
holes.
same type of stone circle.
Yes.
Yes.
And I'm gonna oversimplify this for just to keep it simple. But they found holes and craters that match the size and shape of the Stonehenge rock.
Absolutely.
And they were able to go back and say, oh, look, this particular stone at Stonehenge fits perfectly in this hole right here. They used some imaging equipment, I think, and some like sonar, ground penetrating sonar, radar, whatever. But so they have basically the puzzle shapes without the pieces at this whatever.
Whatever it is. Yeah. So the other thing too is that they had a new study done, and that lends to it that the idea that it was erected as a burial ground. By the way, the researchers examined 25 people whose cremated remains had been buried at the site for around 5,000 years. And they looked at the chemical composition of those remains, and they concluded that 4 of the cremated individuals had lived the last decades of their lives in Wales. So there you go. Interesting. So is it like a pilgrimage to this? Like, there's a lot of pilgrimages that go on in the world for religious reasons, for burial reasons, for burial purposes. And who knows? Early on, the Welsh, the Gaelic, that's what they are. They're considered Gaelic, right?
Sure.
I think, or something like that, whatever.
You're the one that's been there, man.
Hey, I've been there, but I just went for the beer. That's why I went. There you go. And the music, man. Joe Cocker, dude, he was another Welshman. Another fine Welshman. Rock and roll, baby.
I don't know.
Good stuff. I'm Stonehenge.
More of a...
Rolling Stones.
I'm more of a Scotch
come
man.
on, dude.
Yeah, I'd rather...
Oh, are you really?
Yeah, I'd rather go up to the island, but, again.
Yeah. So who is your favorite Scottish individual?
Oh,
man. You have a favorite? Is it Liam Neeson?
David Tennant, the 10th Doctor Who?
Oh,
Doctor?
Really?
He's Scottish,
I'm more of a Sean Connery guy myself.
Well, that's the obvious choice, But then, I guess. Sure.
I'll take the rapist for $500.
Therapist. All right, so let's talk some car stuff on this counter show.
Yeah,
shall we?
Let's get into it, man. Let's now that we've talked rocks and that sort of stuff.
Or would you rather talk about Texas? And I think we can cover both in the same segment. What do you think?
I think it's going to happen. So it got cold down in the great state of Texas, didn't it?
Yeah. So we had some of the blast, but not nearly as severe.
So let's talk about that weather phenomenon, okay?
All right.
Are you into weather at all? Do you study weather? Yeah, you have a weather station, don't you?
Allegedly.
Right. Yeah, so we had a big, huge Arctic blast to push into the great country of the U.S. and then further south into that other country, Texas. And we got it first. We got a load of snow here. We ended up with over a foot. And in certain places, even more than that. I think Mount Baker to the east of us ended up with somewhere around 53 inches of snow. And they're still getting snow even today, weeks after the big storms. Then it moved further east. And that's when the big push of Arctic air come down south. And what was it, like sub-zero temps, man? I mean, just major ice. And that's the difference between what we deal with here and then what you guys in the South deal with, Keith, is the fact that you have that overrunning of the air mass. So instead of falling as snow, which is better, I know that sounds crazy. I would rather have a foot of snow than 2 inches of ice any day. Any day. Nobody can drive in ice. At least with the right vehicle and some skills, you can drive in snow. You can shovel snow and get rid of it and pave your way. With ice, it just kind of hangs around and doesn't go away. Because of all of that, guess what? Texas didn't have no power for a couple of days, man, tell you what.
All right, so where to start with this. Everybody, if you've been living under a rock in Stonehenge, I guess you haven't heard about the power problems in Texas. But for the rest of you, I don't want to go too much into the things you already know. But I want to maybe talk a little bit about why why the power shortage happened. But also, here we go with ingenuity again. So,
oh yeah, people just kind of living out the dream, man.
People have
we all want to kind of live off the grid every once in a while,
yeah.
right? I mean, this is just like
what you wish for, right?
Extreme, yeah. So
we have a guy here that, for those of you that didn't catch it on the podcast, we commented on a previous episode that Ford was, as an add-on option, you could order a generator built in to the new F-150 trucks. Now, I would expect this to be multi-purpose. Like if you're a big outdoorsman, I could see it coming in handy like a camper. Also, contractor, right? If you need to power your, table saw, whatever, some power tools, there you go. You've got a generator you can take right to the work site. Little did Ford expect that people would be using these things to heat their homes.
So in case you're wondering what we're talking about the Ford Pro Power.
Okay.
That's a feature. And it comes on some of their F-150s. The hybrid, as well as just the standard.
Yeah.
And like you said, who would have thought?
Yeah.
I mean, do you think Ford's intent was what we're about to talk about? I don't think so. I think it was to tailgate, to power up things when you're out tailgating at games and stuff like that. I think it was for work site projects.
Sure.
Stuff like that.
And the grid in Texas, right? So
yeah.
This is going to tie into a couple themes that we've had on this show. So here's a little bit about what I understand about why and how this happened. So weather was a factor. Now, if you're a first-time listener, welcome to the program. Thank you. Glad to have you.
Yep.
We have covered many times on this show where electricity comes from. And it does not always come from the same source. In fact, I feel like I should just record this, Jay, and just hit play every 4 or 5 episodes. But most states have a diverse complement of ways that they produce electricity. So I can tell you, like, for example, in Texas, they burn a lot of natural gas to produce electricity. In other states, like where Jay lives, there's a considerable amount of hydroelectric. It comes from dams, solar, wind. All those are ways that electricity can be produced. Burning coal is kind of the old way, still in use today. Right. So Texas has all of those means. The problem is that this cold blast affected every one of them in terms of their ability to produce at normal capacities, And
the mindset on that was just, we don't get storms like that.
It doesn't get this bad. Right.
It doesn't get this bad.
So I asked my neighbor, and ironically, I don't know how this came up. We were talking cars. And
this is so awesome. Yeah.
We were out sledding last week because, we got some of that ice and snow here. And we're all out at, the grown-ups are all standing around with flasks and the kids are sledding down the hills and it's 8 o'clock at night. And everybody's just having a good time,
You might taking bets on kids
right.
and whether or not they would hit their heads or
which adult is going to go down first, right?
Right,
so
right.
I'm not going to name the guy because I don't know that he wants to be named, but he works for a local electric company here in my state. And I just said, so what kind of a problem to the grid is it going to be when we as a country, follow the mandate, that California started by 2035, we're going to be all electric, or that GM has said, by 2035, we're going to be all electric. What's that going to do? And he said, he goes, I realistically, the grid should be fine. He said, because when we build those out, we overbuild them. And I'm going to break this. I'm going to simplify this a little bit, but basically the lines that they run either from pole to pole or underground, those are capable of carrying that extra load. He said the problem that you run into is from the transformer on the pole out in front of your house, or if you have buried lines, on the ground in the box to your house. That part is typically not as robust. It's not overbuilt as much. So the grid itself can carry the extra demand to an extent, but the endpoints, right? The final destination of that power is where you're gonna tax it.
It's the inefficiency of the home itself.
Right.
It's lack of ability to be able to handle it. Yes.
So he said, so the thing that you have to keep in mind is, we have built in to our power networks the ability to, like, let's say when it's 95 degrees out here in Tennessee in the summer, we have built in the ability to go buy extra power from someone else, right? Like, so if it's TVA and they're producing hydroelectric power and they've got an extra demand, they can pull in, somebody else can transfer power to. This sort of thing happens all the time here, okay?
Right.
But Texas, not so much, because Texas can't source power outside of Texas. They're not set up for that.
Right.
Okay.
They have their own grid. They want to be their own.
They're independent.
They're independent, yes.
So when they hit capacity, meaning everybody was running their electric because it was really cold, and you have this perfect storm, so to speak, no pun intended, of the sources that generate that power being reduced because of the storm. Well, now you have the rolling blackout situation that happened in Texas where we can't make enough power to keep up with the demand.
Right.
Hence, drive your F-150, back it right up to the front door,
right,
and run the power line.
Boom.
Yep, and you got your heat.
Yep.
Or your, refrigerator or whatever.
Right. No different than having a gas power generator out there, but it's the F-150. Now, they said that the electricity flow, it needed to be 60 hertz for stability, but it fell below that to like 59.
So they had to try to keep it stable, so they introduced rolling blackouts.
But systems just started shutting down.
Yep.
And that's why. And then once that happened, they couldn't get the things back up. And this is why these people, the similar thing happened in 2012 in India. They had 700 million people that fell into darkness, no power in a situation like this. We were very close, or they were very close in this particular situation to it being very catastrophic. Infrastructure is completely screwed up in these times when that happens. And I mean, it can take months, if not years, to restabilize that. That's why this is such a big deal. And the problem, again, is like they were not, if they had that mindset of, well, it doesn't get that cold here. Well, I can say if you look back in recent history, even in my lifetime, I think the frequency of these types of events have increased, especially in Texas. I've seen a number of cold spell storms, not this bad.
And it doesn't have to be just cold. See, that's the thing.
No,
if you have a company like GM that says we're only going to be producing electric vehicles by 2035, you're not going to have a choice. You're going to have to plug that car in at night. And that's usually 220. And it's a big load on the grid. And if everybody plugs their cars in at night, it's an extra load on the... look, that's going to happen incrementally. It's not going to happen all at once. I understand that's a much milder case.
Right.
But this is not the isolated event that we seem to think it is. I think it's going to happen again.
It will. I think it will too. And my prediction is they could get another blast like this that could put them into deep trouble before this winter's over. I really hope that they get things back up and running. Now they say they're up and running in most locations now. But now guess what you have? Not only you had that situation, but it's the effect of that situation that caused all these poor homeowners that now have burst pipes that are also, it doesn't get that cold here. We'll never have to worry about pipes.
Right.
They don't think about that.
Right.
We do in our locations. Keith, I know you do, even though you're in the South. you are geographically, you get a lot of storms, man.
Yeah.
That put you guys under the 20-degree mark quite frequently.
I always have some sort of backup plan. I mean, that's just sort of the way I live. I'm not really one to rely on other people to bail me out of trouble.
Right.
And, these are things that we've talked about at home as a family. Look, if we're without power for 3 or 4 days, I have a generator. I have, solar panels. I have ways to make power. I have an RV with solar panels on the roof that Jay helped me install. I mean, it's, we got options here. And I'm not going to, and I understand that's not the norm. And a lot of people, that's for whatever reason, they don't have the means, whatever. They have to rely on that plug on the wall. That doesn't mean that you can't have some emergency preparedness at whatever level.
That's right. Even though some of these customers were further inland, say Dallas, Fort Worth, and even El Paso and those areas, they were still heavily affected by this. Now, during hurricane season, typically it's the coastal communities, and it'll get up into, you can get some high winds and heavy flooding rains up into Austin and Dallas and Fort Worth. It can reach that far, no problem. And I'm sure that a lot of those people are prepared because of that with, say, generators on hand. But there's a lot of people that are further inland that just aren't. They don't even think about it. And to add to that, you've got a system in place where the customers of this Texas power grid can choose to pay a specific way where it's a higher rate, and their rate doesn't go beyond whatever, but they can choose the fluctuating rate or whatever and get cheap year-round electricity. But boy, when it hits the fan, for example,
thousands of dollars, right?
Thousands of dollars. There was a gentleman in San Antonio that his name is Scott Willoughby. He's a 63-year-old Army veteran, lives on Social Security in Dallas. Said he had to empty his nearly all of his savings because he had to pay a $16,752 electric bill.
Yeah, now at some point,
insane.
I think there's going to be some probably that's not done, and the state's gonna step in and potentially regulate some of that.
Right. We'll say this: the governor has stepped up. He's working with Washington. There's been some disaster declarations put forth, so these folks will be able to go in and recoup their losses in that regard. I hope that this is a lesson in preparedness here for the state of Texas.
Well, I don't
know what else to say there.
I have a couple thoughts on that. Number one, state of Texas Ford Truck Salesman of the Year. Especially with what did you call that generator package? The Ford.
It's the
Ford.
The Pro.
There you go, Pro Power.
Pro Power. That's
there you
it.
go.
Sorry, man.
So Pro Power Advocate of the Year. Ford just needs to go ahead and make it in the shape of the state of Texas, right? Give that award out. I mean, because this is great publicity for them.
Right.
And I sitting at the dinner table explaining to my wife how this works, and she was like, "Oh yeah, I get it," because we had an RV and it all made sense.
So let me give you the lowdown on that. If you guys are not aware of what that is, Ford Pro Power on board is available in 3 flavors. Depends largely on the pickup's powertrain. The non-hybrid F-150 models are available with an optional 2.0 kilowatt inverter system that outputs via a pair of 20 amp and 120 volt outlets in the bed. Or you can choose the new hybrid power boost mode. It upgrades to a 2.4 kilowatt Pro Power system as standard equipment. They're hybrid, man. Finally, there's the most potent 7.2 kilowatt optional upgrade for the Power Boost Hybrid with 3 times the output, 420 amp, 120 volt connections, and a locking 240 volt NEMA plug, and you can speak to that, the NEMA plug.
Yeah.
It's similar to the kind that you'd plug your clothes dryer
it's
or your EV
RV.
into.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, so it just depends on what you're going to power, with them in terms of, which one you get. Now, you can always step them down a lot of times, but you can't step up, meaning, if you buy the lower powered one and then, a year later you realize that you need to power a compressor or something that requires more juice, you're out of luck. So it's easier to step down. The other thing that I think we're going to see in Texas, Jay, is, the mental health. The demand for mental wellness services is going to go through the roof because you got all these people that basically were unable to connect to Facebook for a week. I mean, what are they going to do with their lives?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. No Facebook, man. No social media, nothing. They couldn't get on there. Hey, unfortunately, there are some really, really sad stories that came out of this. I've seen quite a few stories of where people are just now recovering from water damage from recent hurricanes that have been fighting insurance companies for the last couple of years to try to get their home back in order, and then now all of a sudden they're having to start the cycle all over again because they've got pipes that have burst due to the extreme cold. It's just such a sad situation, man. I have a lot of faith in this country that we're going to step up and take care of these people. Like I said, I believe that they've declared some disaster relief to come their way, and hopefully that happens. So speaking of Ford F-150, though, there's a recall out there. I don't know if you knew this or not, but Ford announced a recall on Monday for select 2021 F-150. And when I say Monday, this is like last week. This is in February, guys. 2020 and 21 Super Duty truck models over concerns that their windshields may not stay in place during a crash. Which could lead to the increased risk of injury during a crash. F-150 models that are being recalled were produced in Dearborn, Michigan, from October 27th of 2020 to February 3rd of 2021. The Super Duty models were built in Kentucky between October 3rd, 2020 and January 23rd, 2021. If any of your vehicles are affected, please contact your local dealership and have them take care of those concerns for you immediately. So there you go. Heard it here first, guys.
Do we have we'll post that on the mention on the podcast page too with a link to the details.
Sure.
All right.
Yeah. We'll do, man. Hey, man. I'm warm.
I think that's the show for today, Jay.
Do you think so?
I think so.
Okay. Well, again, thank you, everybody, for everything. Follow us on partscounterguru.com. Hit the podcast tab. Sign up. Follow us there. Check us out over on youtube.com/partscountergurus. Subscribe, like, tell a friend, ring the bell, all that sort of stuff. Anything we mention on these podcasts, we have a mention on the podcast tab. If you want to leave a comment, you can comment on our partscounterguru.com website as well. I got a lot to say, man, but we just don't have enough time.
Well, that's why this is episodic. So you come back next week.
I know. So you want to take us out of here, guys?
Yeah, man. All right, everybody. Thanks again for my podcast partner, Jay, over there. I'm Keith. It's so great to talk to each and every one of you. Again, thank you all. We look forward to talking to you again soon to hear what Jay is holding back. Until next time, only wear things that bring a smile. Take care, everybody.